Let me guess, you're great at hitting targets at work, but when it comes to weight loss, nothing seems to stick. As a therapist specializing in emotional eating, I'm going to show you why smart women struggle with diets and the psychology-based approach that actually works. And watch to the end to understand why traditional diet approaches fail career-driven women and learn the psychology-based methods that create lasting transformation without compromising your professional success. What if I told you that your problem-solving abilities, your drive for excellence, your strategic thinking, these aren't just failing to help with your weight loss, they're actually creating the cycle you're stuck in. Let me show you how. There are 3 critical areas where your professional strengths are unknowingly working against you. As we explore each one, you'll see exactly why your past approaches haven't created lasting change. The first pillar is food. Your approach to work projects, meticulously tracking every detail and striving for perfect execution. And naturally, you bring the same mindset to your eating. The spreadsheets, the calorie tracking, the precise meal plan. And here's what's fascinating. The very skills that make you excel in your career are the reason your relationship with food feels so complicated. When you're managing a major project, control equals success. But with food, that same control leads directly to an exhausting cycle of restriction and rebellion. The second pillar is your body. In your career, you measure success through clear targets, metrics, and continuous improvement. This same pattern shows up in how you approach exercise. The step counting, the calorie burning, the constant push to do more. While this high achieving approach drives your career success, it's creating a harmful relationship with movement. Exercise has become just another task to perfect, another metric to hit, another way to compensate for what you ate. And the third pillar is your mind. This is where everything connects. Your career success is built on a clear principle. Hard work and willpower lead to results. The more effort you put in, the better the outcome. Notice how this belief system completely falls apart with food and weight. Despite working harder than ever, tracking every bite, following every rule, you're stuck in a cycle that no amount of willpower can break. The mindset that serves you so well in your career is actually the hidden barrier to your food freedom. What I'm going to walk you through today is a complete framework that's helping professional women finally break free from the diet binge cycle. Each component builds on the last, creating a system for sustainable change. Missing any piece would be like trying to build a house without a foundation. Yes, it might stay up for a while, but then it quickly develops cracks and falls down. And this is likely what you've seen before with your diet. And let me share why this matters. Sarah, one of my clients, came to me after 20 years of dieting. As a marketing director, she had the discipline and drive to succeed in her career, but couldn't understand why these same traits weren't helping her maintain her weight loss. Using this framework, she transformed her relationship with food completely. Now she enjoys social events without anxiety, maintains a healthy weight without tracking anything, and feels confident in her body, all while excelling in her career. Now, if you've been successful with diets in the past but couldn't maintain the result, there's a specific reason for that, and it's not what you might think. What we're covering today isn't just another set of diet rules or willpower strategies. This is about transforming your relationship with food, using the same professional skills that made you successful in your career. And by the way, I'm Harry, and this channel helps professional women break free from emotional eating and failed diets using psychology-based approaches. If you're finding value in this already, make sure to subscribe for evidence-based strategies that actually work. So now that you understand how these 3 pillars work together, let me show you exactly how to implement them into your daily life to create lasting change. Let's start with the food pillar, because this is where most professional women get trapped in a cycle that's destined to fail. When we look deeper at why traditional diets don't create lasting change for professional women, 3 critical patterns emerge. First, there's the black and white thinking that's so valuable in your professional life. In business, this clarity helps you make decisive choices and maintain high standards. But with food, this perfectionism becomes a trap. One unplanned meal becomes evidence of failure. triggering a complete departure from your eating plan. Instead of treating a single off-plan choice as a normal part of life, it becomes a reason to abandon your whole approach, making consistent, sustainable progress impossible. This perfectionism connects directly into the second pattern, treating weight loss like a work project. In your career, you excel by setting ambitious deadlines, pushing through intense periods, and reaching clear endpoints. But unlike a quarterly target or a product launch, your relationship with food has no finish line. When you approach eating like a project with a deadline, you create an unsustainable pattern that inevitably leads to rebound weight gain once the project ends. The third pattern is perhaps the most insidious. It starts with, I hate how I look right now, so I'll endure this strict diet because I need to lose weight before I can be happy. The diet becomes a bridge you feel you must cross to reach self-acceptance, something to suffer through until you reach that magical number on a scale where you believe life can finally begin. But here's what makes this pattern so destructive. It's built on a false premise that you need to reach a certain weight before you can feel good about yourself. This mindset turns everyday dieting into a form of self-imposed punishment that you must endure to earn your future happiness. And this explains why even the most successful professional women find themselves starting the same punishing diets over and over again. They're not choosing these diets because they align with their lifestyle or values, they're choosing them out of desperate need to escape their current self-image as quickly as possible, no matter how unsustainable or harsh the method might be. This is why sustainable transformation requires a fundamentally different approach. Instead of another diet that plays into these patterns, what you need is an approach that works 24/7, 365 days a year, one that fits seamlessly into your life. Think about the most successful long-term projects you've ever managed. What made it work wasn't just the initial planning phase, it was creating systems that could adapt and sustain themselves through any challenge. This is exactly what we do with the food freedom formula. Instead of rigid rules that either work perfectly or fail completely, we build a flexible framework using something I call the hand-sized portion method. But before I show you how this works, you need to understand something crucial. This isn't about perfection or following another set of strict guidelines. It's about learning to make decisions and trusting yourself with food again. The same way you trust yourself in high-stakes business situations, you can develop that same confidence with food choices. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. Remember Sarah, the marketing director I mentioned earlier? When she first came to me, she had spreadsheets full of calories and macros, yet felt completely out of control with food. Here's what we did instead. Think about how you might handle a business lunch with clients if you have one. You likely don't pull out a food scale or start logging calories in an app. That would be impractical and honestly a bit awkward. Yet these are exactly the situations where many women tell me they struggle the most. Now, imagine if you had a measurement tool that was always with you, one that required no special equipment, no apps, and no mental math. When Sarah first heard about this approach, she was skeptical. After all, she was used to precise measurements and exact numbers. But then she noticed something interesting about her colleagues who managed to maintain a healthy weight without struggling. They seemed to naturally understand portion sizes without measuring anything. What did they know that she didn't? The answer was surprisingly simple, though not obvious. You see, your body already comes equipped with the perfect measurement tool, one that's proportional to your size and goes everywhere with you. In fact, you might be looking at it right now. Your own hands hold the key to understanding portions in a way that spreadsheets and food scales never could. Now I know what you might be thinking. If you spent years tracking every gram and counting every calorie, this might seem too simple. After all, how can your hands be as accurate as your carefully maintained spreadsheets? Here's what's fascinating. When Sarah first started using this method, she had exactly the same concern. But Harry, she said, I need to be precise. What if I eat too much? The irony was, her precision with tracking had actually led to her most unpredictable eating behaviors. Let me show you why this works better than precise tracking. Think about your most successful weeks at work. They're rarely the ones where you micromanaged every minute of your day. Instead, they're the weeks where you had clear, manageable systems that could handle unexpected challenges. The same principle applies here. You see, while counting calories might seem more accurate, it creates a false sense of control. It works perfectly until it doesn't. Until that business dinner where you can't weigh your food, until that conference where the meal plan goes out the window, until that late night project where your carefully tracked day falls apart. But your hands, they're with you at every meal, every restaurant, every business event. And here's what makes this approach so powerful. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent, because consistency, not perfection, is what creates lasting change. Let me show you exactly how this works in real life and share something that surprised Sarah about this approach. Over a typical month of calorie counting, she'd have about 15 perfect days, meticulously tracking everything. But then she'd have about 15 days where tracking went out the window completely, usually during business dinners, social events, or stressful work periods. But with the hand portion method, she managed to stay consistent about 80% of the time across all days. No more on or off the plan. Think about what this means over a year. Instead of cycling between perfect tracking and complete chaos, she managed a steady, sustainable approach. And here's how simple it becomes. Your palm size and thickness determines your protein portion. Your cupped hands measure carbohydrates. Your thumb indicates fat portions. And your fist measures vegetable servings. What makes this so powerful is that it's proportional to your body. Just like a taller person naturally has a bigger hand, they also need bigger portions. The system automatically scales to you, but the real magic isn't in the measurement, it's in the freedom it creates. Imagine sitting at a business dinner, able to estimate your portions without pulling out your phone. Imagine food shopping without needing to calculate every macro. Imagine actually enjoying food again while still making progress towards your weight loss goal. This is exactly what Sarah experienced. Within weeks, she noticed something remarkable. What Sarah discovered within those first few weeks was eye-opening. Not only was she maintaining consistent portions without the mental drain of constant calculations, but something even more important was happening. Her relationship with food was changing. Remember those business lunches that used to fill her with anxiety? Instead of being preoccupied with logging every ingredient or estimating calories, she could actually focus on her clients. Rather than pulling out her phone to track everything, she simply used her hands as a guide and moved on with her day. But the real breakthrough came during a particularly stressful project launch. In the past, this would have been when her careful tracking fell apart completely. Instead, even with back-to-back meetings and late nights at the office, she could still maintain consistent portions without adding more stress to her day. Here's what makes this approach so powerful. It's not just about the portions, it's about freeing up your mental energy for what really matters. Think about how much brain space you currently dedicate to tracking, measuring, and worrying about food. Now imagine redirecting all that mental energy back into your career, your relationships, and your life. This is where the compound effect kicks in. When you're no longer exhausting yourself with perfect tracking, you have the mental bandwidth to actually listen to your body's hunger signals. When you're not constantly thinking about food, those stress-induced cravings naturally begin to diminish. Instead of cycling between restriction and rebellion, your energy levels stabilize and your focus improves. But there's one more crucial element that makes this approach work so well for professional women. It actually trains your brain to understand food differently. Instead of seeing meals as numbers to calculate, you begin to see them as fuel for your performance, both in and out of the office. But this brings us to the most overlooked element of sustainable weight loss, one that 90% of professional women miss completely, because once you've established this simple approach to portions, something crucial needs to happen with your movement patterns. You see, most women make a critical mistake with exercise that actually sabotages their food freedom. They approach movement the same way they approach their quarterly targets, with intense focus on metrics and results. This takes us to the second pillar, and what I'm about to share might challenge everything you believe about exercise and weight loss. Most professional women fall into a predictable trap with exercise. They treat it like another task to optimize, searching for the workout that burns the most calories in the least time. High intensity intervals, grueling cardio sessions, pushing harder and harder to earn their food or burn off what they ate. Let me share what happened to another client, Jennifer, a finance executive. She was doing HIIT classes 5 times a week, tracking her calorie burn religiously. On paper, it looked perfect, maximum efficiency, just like she ran her department. But there was a problem she didn't expect. After those intense sessions, her hunger skyrocketed. She found herself exhausted, craving sugar for energy, and too drained to move much for the rest of the day. Even worse, this hardcore approach was adding more stress to her already demanding schedule. Like many women, she was creating a cycle that worked against her goals. Here's what most people don't realize about sustainable weight loss. Your daily movement matters far more than those intense workout sessions. Think about it, you have 24 hours in a day. What you do in a 45-minute workout is far less important than how you move throughout the other 23 hours and 15 minutes. Instead of exhausting yourself with endless cardio, there are actually 3 distinct types of exercise that serve different purposes, and understanding this changes everything. First, let's talk about daily movement, not just formal exercise, but everything you do throughout the day. When you track steps, you're really just tracking all movement. Those walks between meetings, taking the stairs, even dancing while you cook dinner. It all counts. And here's what's fascinating. The average person burns 300 to 400 calories from getting 10,000 steps. And this might not sound impressive until you do the math. That's 2,100 to 2,800 calories per week, or 8,400 to 11,200 calories per month, and an incredible 109,000 to 145,000 calories per year. And this is really what drives sustainable weight loss, not killing yourself in the gym. Now, here's where most women miss a crucial opportunity: shape and tone. Look at any magazine cover model and you might assume they do hours of cardio, but here's the truth. That toned feminine look comes primarily from resistance training. And let me dispel a common myth: you won't get bulky from lifting heavy weights. Due to your hormonal profile, building large muscles is incredibly difficult for women. What strength training actually does is sculpt and shape your body while dramatically boosting your metabolism. Those elegant curves and toned muscles you're aiming for, they come from progressively challenging your body with weights. Finally, there's fitness, and this is where those high-intensity workouts can play a role, but not in the way you might think. Instead of using them to punish yourself or burn calories, we use them strategically and sparingly to build cardiovascular health and overall fitness. Think of it like the cherry on top, not the foundation. The magic happens when you combine these 3 elements in the right way. So here's how these 3 elements work together to create sustainable transformation. Your foundation is daily movement, those 10,000 plus steps. But remember, this isn't just about walking, it's about finding ways to move that fit naturally into your life. For some of my clients, this means taking walking meetings. For others, it's gardening on the weekends or playing with their kids. The key is choosing movement you enjoy, because that's what you actually maintain long term. Next, we prioritize strength training 2 to 3 times per week. This is where the real magic happens for your body composition. Start with where you're comfortable, but commit to progressively challenging yourself. Every woman I've worked with who embraced real strength training not only transformed their body shape, but discovered a confidence they never expected. They went from being afraid of the weight section to owning it. And finally, we add that cardio or HIIT training once or twice a week. But here's the key difference in our approach. We use it for health and energy, not for punishment and calorie burning. This means you actually enjoy your workouts instead of dreading them. What makes this approach so powerful for professional women is that it's sustainable with a demanding career. You don't need to spend hours in the gym or exhaust yourself with daily high-intensity workouts. Each type of movement has its purpose. When combined correctly, they work synergistically to transform your body while energizing you for everything else in your life. But there's one more crucial element that we need to address, and this is where everything either falls into place or falls apart entirely. You see, you can have the perfect portion control system and an ideal movement plan, but there's a reason that even the most successful professional women often can't maintain their results. Think about it, you've likely experienced this yourself. You start a new approach feeling motivated and confident. Your portions are perfect and your workouts are consistent. Then something happens. A stressful project deadline, an important client dinner, a family celebration. Suddenly, all your careful planning unravels. This brings us to the most critical pillar, your mind. And what I'm about to share might challenge everything you believe about willpower and motivation when it comes to weight loss. Remember Sarah, who transformed her relationship with food? The real breakthrough wasn't in the hand-sized portions or the workout plan. It came from understanding something that went against everything she'd been taught about weight loss. You see, Sarah had always believed that successful weight loss came from hating your current situation enough to change it. I'm so sick of what I see in the mirror, I'm ready to do whatever it takes, she told me in her first session. Sound familiar? But here's the problem. Starting a transformation from a place of self-hatred is like building a house on quicksand. It might work temporarily, but it will eventually collapse. Think about it this way. Why do you make other positive changes in your life? You advanced your career because you believed in your potential, not because you hate your current position. You nurture relationships because you value connection, not out of self-loathing. Yet with health and fitness, we've been conditioned to believe that hatred of our current state will drive positive change. And so this brings us to a crucial understanding about values and how they sometimes seem to conflict. One of my clients struggled with this exact situation. Her partner had lovingly baked her favorite cake, and she felt torn between her health and fitness goals and showing appreciation. She thought her only options were to either stick to her diet and reject the gesture of love, or accept the cake and fail on her weight loss goal. But here's what most people miss about this situation. It's not actually about the cake at all. When you start your transformation from a place of self-worth rather than a place of self-hatred, these decisions become clearer. You can deeply value both your health and your relationships without conflict. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Instead of the all or nothing thinking of I either reject the cake and hurt my partner's feelings, or I eat it and fail on my goals, you can respond from a place of both love and wisdom. Maybe enjoy a mindful portion of the cake, fully present with your partner, rather than either restricting or binging. This isn't compromise, it's integration. But I know what you might be thinking. That sounds great in theory, Harry, but what about when my emotions take over? What about stress eating after a challenging day at work? Or those cravings that seem impossible to control? So let me share a powerful way to understand how we typically handle cravings and emotional eating. Hold your hands in front of your face. These represent your thoughts, feelings, emotions, urges, and cravings. What usually happens is one of two things. You're pushing them away, there's that fight with that urge and that craving, that you stop focusing on what matters, what you're trying to do in your day. All the energy goes into the craving. And this uses even more energy and builds even more stress. The other thing that often happens is you just let them consume you. You have the food, you just give in, and for a moment, that feeling, that urge, that craving goes away. But soon after, what happens? You then feel regret. You feel all this self-hatred and loathing because you went against your decision. You did something you didn't want to do. Those food thoughts completely took over and you gave in. And this is not your fault. It takes a lot of energy for this fight. And sometimes you just feel like relaxing. And while most approaches might teach you to fight these thoughts, to use your willpower, to resist harder, but fighting these thoughts takes even more energy. It creates even more stress and makes it even more likely that you're going to give in. And as I said, this is followed by the guilt, the shame, and the feeling that you've failed yet again. The next day you start over and the cycle continues. But there's a different way. What about instead of fighting those thoughts, you gently move them to your lap and allow them some space just to be there. Your thoughts are still there, but they're not taking all your energy and they're not blocking your view anymore. This is where the race technique transforms everything. Picture this common scenario. It's 9 p.m, you finished a challenging day of back-to-back meetings and you find yourself standing in front of the fridge, feeling that familiar urge to eat even though you're not physically hungry. This is where the race technique guides you through a different response. First, rewiring. You recognize this urge as your brain's learned response to stress. Just like you trained yourself to handle pressure at work, you can retrain your stress response with food. Then we have acceptance. Instead of fighting the urge, you acknowledge it's there, just like with your hands. Remember, not pushing it away, but not letting it consume you either. Next comes connecting what's really happening in your body. When you're not totally consumed by the craving, you can notice other signals. Are you tired? Are you seeking comfort? Are you needing to process the day's stress? Finally, you engage in your environment. Instead of that standoff with the fridge, you can choose actions that actually address what you discovered you need, whether that's relaxation, comfort, or processing your day. This approach builds something much more powerful than willpower. It creates a new neural pathway that makes better choices automatic. You see, what makes this approach so different is that it works with your brain's natural patterns rather than against them. When you're operating at a high level in your career, you're not relying on willpower to get you through each day. You've developed automated responses to challenges. The same principle applies here. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. One of my clients, a senior manager, used to end every stressful day in a battle with her evening cravings. Despite incredible discipline at work, she felt powerless in these moments. But through race, something fascinating happened. Instead of her usual pattern, fighting the urge until she gave in, then feeling guilty and starting again tomorrow, she began to see those moments as opportunities for growth, just like she did with career challenges. Each craving became a chance to practice this new approach. Within weeks, she'd noticed something remarkable. Those evening cravings didn't disappear completely. That's not the goal. But her response to them transformed entirely. She found herself automatically pausing to check in with what she really needed. Sometimes it was food, and that was okay. But more often, she discovered what she really needed was time to decompress, to process her day, or simply to rest. And this is where the real transformation happens. It's not about achieving perfect control over eating. It's about developing a relationship with food that works with your life, not against it. Just like you built expertise in your career through experience and learning, you're building expertise in understanding and responding to your body's needs. And the result isn't just weight loss, it's freedom. Freedom from the constant mental battle with food, freedom from the guilt and shame cycle, freedom to focus your mental energy on what really matters in your life. This is where all three pillars work together to create lasting change. Remember how we talked about using your hands to measure portions and how movement should energize rather than exhaust you? These aren't just practical tools, they're designed to work in harmony with this new mindset. Think about it, when you're no longer in a constant battle with food thoughts, you can actually listen to your body's hunger signals. Those hand portions become intuitive rather than restrictive. Instead of measuring from a place of control and fear, you're doing it from a place of self-care and awareness. The same goes for movement. When you're not using exercise to punish yourself for eating or to earn your food, you naturally gravitate towards activities that make you feel good. That daily movement becomes a way to connect with your body rather than fight against it. One of my clients put it perfectly. She said, for the first time, I'm not thinking about food all the time. I'm not counting down the minutes until my next meal or obsessing over what I ate. I just feel normal, free. And this is what's possible when you address all three pillars together. The food framework gives you structure without restriction. The movement approach energizes you without exhausting you. And the mindset works ensures you're making choices from a place of self-worth rather than self-criticism. But there's one more crucial element that we need to address. The integration of all this into real life. Because let's be honest, knowledge alone isn't enough. You probably already knew that extreme diets don't work long term. You likely suspected that over-exercising wasn't sustainable, and maybe you even recognized that your relationship with food needed to change. What makes this approach different is that it works with your life, not against it. Think about how you've succeeded in your career. You didn't do it by following a rigid one-size-fits-all formula. You developed systems and approaches that worked for your specific situation, your unique challenges, your personal strengths. This is exactly the same. When you align these three pillars, food freedom, energizing movement, and emotional fitness with your individual life, something remarkable happens. Instead of trying to force yourself into a restricted diet box or an unsustainable exercise regime, you create a lifestyle that actually supports both your health goals and your career success. I've seen this transformation happen time and time again with my clients. They come to me feeling stuck in the yo-yo dieting cycle, trying to balance their professional career with their health goals. And through this approach, they discover it's not about balance at all. It's about integration, creating a way of living that supports all aspects of who they are and what they want to achieve. Listen, I know this might feel both exciting and overwhelming right now. You can see the possibility of a different approach. You might be wondering how this significantly applies to your situation. That's why I want to offer you something. And let me be clear, this isn't a sales call. I'd like to invite you for a short 20-minute conversation with me where I can look into what's not working in your current approach and identify some specific changes you could make to start seeing results. Think of it like a quick strategy session. In just 20 minutes, I'll help you spot where you might be unknowingly sabotaging your progress and share some practical ideas that you can start implementing right away, regardless of whether we ever work together or not. There's absolutely no obligation, and I promise you'll walk away with at least 1 or 2 actionable insights that you can use immediately. The link to book your session is in the description below. And if you found value in this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more evidence-based strategies on creating sustainable transformation while still excelling in your career. Remember, you don't need to choose between professional success and health goals. You just need the right approach to achieve both. And what I found is that people that have liked this video also get great value from this one too.